Alright, hey guys, this is Burt from Soft Tubes, and today we have a movie review of a long shot. I do have to say straight up, I apologize that the video is later than I originally promised. I did promise it for Saturday, and now it's coming out on Monday. Things kind of got away from me over the weekend. I ended up a little busier and not having quite the time in the right place that I thought I was going to, essentially. Also, this video is going to be a little shorter because I kind of feel like this is a movie that can be reviewed without talking too much about specific points, and it's probably better if you don't. This is the movie that I think if you knew too much about specifics, you probably wouldn't want to go see it because you already know it, essentially. So I'm going to avoid talking too much about specific parts or anything like that. But anyway, yes, as I said, today is reviewing Long Shot, the latest Seth Rogen film with Charlize Theron. And straight away, I have to say, if you're not a fan of Seth Rogen, you're probably not going to be a fan of this. Which I'm going to have a little caveat to that a little later on. But basically, it is kind of an odd film in that regard, in that for a lot of it, it's a rather typical romantic comedy, and it actually maintains that for pretty long stretches of the film where I was sitting there and going like, I was still watching a Rogen film. Like it feels very classic romantic comedy for a lot, but with a newer kind of sensibility about it. But then it'll suddenly very hard swing into Seth Rogen's territory, usually with jokes and stuff through like drugs or sex specifically. And yeah, as I said, it'll go really hard. It'll be like, oh, romantic comedy, and then boom, drugs and sex. And it'll just go really hard with whatever joke it wants to tell there. And I do think that, though, even if you don't like that kind of thing, to ignore this film simply because of your prior feelings about Rogen or his type of humor is actually doing both the film and yourself a bit of a disservice. Because Long Shot is so full of heart and feeling that, and in a way it's kind of odd because it's full of a heart that's actually strengthened by the more crass moments, not hurt by it, which is pretty damn rare. You don't see that a lot. Oftentimes those humorous moments that involve a lot of like really kind of what people consider dirty humor, it usually gets a bit hurt by it because it just sort of undercuts everything it's trying to say. Where here, they use that to actually tell the story. Those really crass, dirty jokes are actually telling at least part of the overall story, not simply there to be a dirty, crass joke. And it can, and as ridiculous as the movie can be at times, it also has some real human moments that are really like a pure delight to watch as they unfold. There were some moments that really like hit me hard, and part of it is because the crassness of it makes it real, or at least more real. It's a pretty ridiculous film out there, and there are some bits I think that are in the trailer that you can be like, oh, that's a bit much, but there's still some really human kind of, when it comes to interactions and conversations about how people work with each other and interact with each other. There's some real humanity there, which is really beautiful. One thing, though, that will definitely turn some people off, there are some people that will absolutely not be able to watch this movie because of it, is the film's politics. I figure at this point, anyone who knows anything about Seth Rogen has a pretty good idea of whether or not they agree with Seth Rogen's politics. He is very left-leaning. And this film is very heavy in his political ideology from the start. Immediately the film starts, I almost thought it was a different film to begin with, and it just goes hard. It goes really, really damn hard. I'm a pretty left-leaning SJW kind of a person. I'm pretty open about that. But even I found at some points in the film that the politics were a little heavy-handed, which if you're already not too keen on them, you're really going to be put off by it. But I kind of do feel like by the end of the film, that was kind of the point, was that they were heavy-handed, they were obvious. They didn't want to spend a lot of, like, it's a pretty long movie, it's 2 hours. Which seems to be the norm for most films these days, which is strange to me. I'm still used to comedies being an hour and a half. Like, that's what they're supposed to be to me, but that's not the world we live in anymore. But yeah, it's a 2-hour film, but it wanted to spend more time with the people and not so much trying to do a nuanced, kind of subtle political commentary underneath the film, and then hoping that people understood it enough for when it decides to actually do something with that. Some films can do that, and typically a film that will do that, that's the point of the film. The film is purely political, and it's trying to say something. This film is, although it's very political, is not purely political, it's still a romantic comedy at the heart of it. And so it doesn't want to waste time and waste people's minds, essentially, as they're watching it, trying to figure out what it's doing. And late in the film, it all comes to this moment of understanding. But sadly, for anyone who's already turned off by the politics and the heavy-handedness of it, it comes way too late in the film. If you're the kind of person who's going to walk out of a film because you disagree with its politics or disagree with anything, you've probably already left the film at this point, because this is right at the end of the film. It's probably at the hour and a half mark-ish, probably actually a little bit later almost. I can't remember how much happens after it specifically, but it's about that mark. And so it's a little bit too late, and it doesn't honestly take enough time discussing the idea that it's actually putting forward to truly take advantage of that. I do have to say though, Charlize Theron, I always don't know if I'm saying her name right, but I'm just going to run with that, is terrific throughout this film. She has a gravitas to her that surrounds her in this aura throughout the film. This real, like, this woman who's worked through stuff and, like, has real ambition and things like that. But she still comes off as a very fallible human. There's nothing that detracts from her being, like, you still believe she could be a person. And as a politician, she's not a politician that you feel distanced from and hate. You feel like there's a woman there, and there's a really nice way of showing politics and politicians in that she believes in stuff. And most people who get into politics, whether you agree with their politics or not, they believe in something when they start out, or at least when they want to start out. But then things happen, compromise of politics, and you see her struggle with that, which is really nice. Rogen is honestly just Rogen in most of his films in this. There's a few moments where I felt he really faltered. I don't know, something just off about him for me. But thankfully, he actually mostly makes up for it all, at least for me, with these really heartfelt moments that sort of emanate off the screen. Like, he just has some great human, emotional moments, which really help make this movie. And the rest of the cast fills out really well. I don't want to go too much for each of them, but Andy Serkis is absolutely the standout as the really easily hateable media mogul. He's like covered in prosthetics that maybe I'm just stupid, but I actually was going like, do I know that guy? I don't know if I've ever seen that actor before. And then at the end was like, oh, that's right, Andy Serkis was in this film. And he was the guy in the prosthetics. Like, that's kind of his thing now. Apparently, he's either in motion capture or prosthetics, but he was really good at being hateable. He's still like a little bit cartoonish in the politics and whatever he represents, but that's also still part of the point. They didn't want you to doubt at any point whether he was supposed to be bad or not if you're coming from the same point of view of the politics. That's not the point of this. They're not trying to make you, certain people at the very least, there is a little bit of like, oh, maybe certain people from the other side are not entirely bad, but there's still a push of like, there are some people that are just scumbags, and you should just know they're scumbags. And overall, like, if you're okay with Rogen and his politics, you should find Longshot a damn good addition to the romantic comedy genre, as it manages to craft a story that is actually quite original overall, and in a genre that's kind of full of a lot of redone ideas and cliches. This film's actually pretty damn original in a lot of its components, and that's pretty amazing to see. I give it 4 out of 5 stars, and I recommend that you give it a watch, even though the 2-hour runtime it's still a little weird to me, but when you watch it, it does actually make sense. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Obviously, because politics is involved, try to be civil if that does come up. Try to just talk about the movie, whether you liked it or not, and whatever, or if you're interested in seeing it, all those sort of things. If you liked the video, didn't like it, there's a like and dislike. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and then there's the bell if you want to keep up. But, you know, the main thing is that you subscribe so you can keep watching all the reviews and reactions and gameplays and stuff. I've got more gameplay stuff coming. I am going to finish Oxenfree. It's just, that's been put on the back burner for a little bit. I haven't had quite the right time and had some issues recording and stuff like that. So that's going to happen. I'm also doing some other stuff I got planned. And we're still, there's some other good stuff coming. So, you know, that's all great. And anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. What?
Gotta go fast.
Minutes ago, an energy surge knocked out power across the entire Pacific Northwest.
What?
Need someone who can figure